Watch this.
We've never really even claimed that we're trying to help everybody out of homelessness. Not everybody wants to, and not everybody can.
And for those who can't, well, they currently have protections on where they can sleep, at least for now. The U.S. Supreme Court is deciding on a case that comes from Oregon, so we're talking to a shelter in Grants Pass to hear how they see it and how Boise's case got them here. Idaho is getting a lot of mentions this week in the Supreme Court. Tomorrow, they'll listen to arguments on Idaho's abortion ban, the law that is sending more pregnant patients to other states for maternal care than ever before. It's a big election year, which means election integrity is top of mind. So Ada County is going digital, and they're going to put every ballot online.
You cannot criminalize the status of being a homeless person who needs a place to sleep.
I guess the question is, what if you can? At least Grants Pass in Oregon, well, they're trying. In 2018, Martin versus Boise set the precedent across the West Coast that being homeless is not illegal. You can't be ticketed for sleeping in a public park, for example. A year later, Grants Pass was sued and told they had to stop enforcing their laws that did just that. But they appealed all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. And SCOTUS heard those arguments on the case on Monday, which seemed to revolve around one homeless shelter in town. Andrew Bartling spoke to them about being at the center of challenging the ruling in Boise's case.
If you agree homeless people sleep in parks, gather in tents, and scavenge shopping carts because they have nowhere else to go, then what's Brian Boteller to think?
Yeah.
At the Gospel Rescue Mission in Grants Pass, Oregon.
We actually dropped down to about a 40% capacity.
Oh, God, look at that.
The somewhere else to go is not the question. It's just somewhere else that they want.
That somewhere was determined here in Boise. The Ninth Circuit Court ruled homeless people have the right to sleep in public if no shelter beds are available. Low barrier shelter beds.
This is just a secular way of saying we want to create something else that excludes the Christians.
In Grants Pass, homelessness was once
We're kind of like
recognizable.
the old town drunk.
A known face, a known name. Now a lost trope.
They just started exploding in the parks. If you told them no to anything, they just got violent.
Violating shelter policy
There's 26 rules for here.
is a one-way ticket back to the street.
There are people who want to leave homelessness and can leave homelessness, and we're trying to get those folks out.
But Boteller estimates 2/3 of people are left behind by consequence of life,
Somebody who's got a debilitating mental illness.
and others by choice.
That's the thing that is being missed, and it's because it seems irrational, I think.
Grants Pass Gospel Rescue Mission is the only overnight shelter in town and plays a central role in the Supreme Court case because there is somewhere else to go, but it has strings attached.
You cannot force somebody to participate in religious service beliefs.
Howard Beladoff represented Robert Martin against Boise.
I don't know, people got to sleep.
And that court ruling in 2018 validated homelessness to follow the path of least resistance.
Dramatic drop. They're just rules for society, but we call them barriers. We frame them as barriers. Now all of a sudden it's a problem.
In a brief to the Supreme Court, the Gospel Rescue Mission explains they require sobriety, 2 daily church services, and abstinence. The price tag out of a wet Oregon park is open to refusal. More and more take the shoes and the shirt. Just hold the service.
And there's people that just go, yep, you're just too barrier filled.
The Gospel Rescue Mission in Grants Pass brief to the Supreme Court says nearly 1/3 of the people they serve every year get out of homelessness. And that percentage has not changed, even though the number of people going to their shelter for help has dropped, especially since the injunction, he says, that coming from this Supreme Court case. The Gospel Rescue Mission does want the court to strike down Martin. And if Martin was to be overruled, though, Boise actually remains untouched. That's because the city, Brian, settled in Martin versus Boise, so they agreed they would not enforce an anti-camping ordinance. But if the Supreme Court was to overrule that, all the other cities could enforce that because it's a Supreme Court ruling.
So you're saying if they do overturn this, overturn Martin v. Boise, or at least change that, that means that Boise will then be the only city, at least in the West, that has or doesn't have these rules in place?
That we're familiar with. It would be unique for another city to have some sort of settlement to where they said they wouldn't do that. Boise would be a very friendly city for homeless people.
Interesting. All right. Thank you very much, Andrew. Well, let's come down to this. Idaho's failure to change its abortion ban has pushed a federal lawsuit against it all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. Tomorrow, justices will hear arguments in the United States versus Idaho and Moyle. Two consolidated cases where the Department of Justice claims that Idaho's abortion law, with exceptions only for the rape, incest, and life of the mother, violates the Emergency Medical Treatment and Labor Act. Quick recap of where it started and how it's going. Back in 2020, Idaho passed a trigger law, Senate Bill 1385, which said, should the Supreme Court overturn Roe v. Wade, a nearly 50-year-old ruling that allowed for abortion across the country, if they would overturn Roe and restore authority to the states to ban abortion, Idaho would make abortion a crime. It made performing an abortion a felony for doctors, punishable up to 5 years in prison and a permanent loss of license for more than one offense. Then in June of 2022, the U.S. Supreme Court did what many considered the impossible. They overturned Roe v. Wade with the Dobbs decision. They gave that power back to the states to decide abortion for themselves. Idaho's law was triggered, and it went into effect in August of 2022. Almost immediately, the Department of Justice filed a lawsuit because that exception, the life of the mother, wasn't enough, and it went against EMTALA. Emergency care is emergency care, and a patient should not be denied care because, well, they aren't dying yet. A federal judge immediately put an injunction in place so that wouldn't be the case. But a month later, that injunction was suspended by a 3-judge panel of the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, said Idaho could enforce all of its abortion bans. I should say a year later, not a month later, a year later. Even this emergency care, while the lawsuit worked its way through the courts, which is what it is doing now. Because in January, the Supreme Court agreed to hear arguments in the United States versus Idaho and Moyle. And in doing so, they also agreed with the lower court ruling that the law can continue to be fully enforced. So that hearing is tomorrow. But last week, Dr. Jim Souza, the chief medical officer of St. Luke's Health System, he was on a national conference call to talk about the impact this narrow exception has meant to health care in Idaho, pointing out Idaho has lost more than 60 OBGYNs since the ban began in August of 2022, and they haven't been replaced. Dr. Souza hopes that the Supreme Court can at least offer Idaho's doctors a lifeline when it comes to caring for patients with pregnancy complications.
Well, at first I hope they hear that the Defense of Life Act, Idaho's law, actually is clearly in conflict with EMTALA. EMTALA says that we have to act to stabilize a patient, and sometimes the stabilizing act we have to perform is to terminate a pregnancy, to stop bleeding, to stop infection, and so on. And then because of that, I hope that they will preserve this narrow injunction that Judge Windmill first put into place, recognizing that conflict. Even if they do that, though, we still have work to do here in Idaho. There are some simple fixes to the law that could be put into place that would alleviate this fear and allow physicians to practice medicine when women are having pregnancy complications.
What are those simple fixes?
I mean, the simple fix is to allow an exception for the health of the mother.
How do you feel about nothing happening this last session to fix that?
Yeah, it was very discouraging. There was a lot of trying, kind of talk about what language fixes might look like, and it all just got stopped.
The stat of how many patients have had to been transported out of Idaho to receive care.
Yes.
When it comes to maternal care.
Correct.
What is that stat?
So we've had 6 just in the first trimester, ironically, of this year.
Since January?
Since January, the first 4 months of this year, we've had 6 versus 1 in all of 2023.
That's a significant jump.
It is, and if I annualize it, I tell myself we'll be at somewhere between 15 and 20 by the end of the year if things stay the same.
And this is all because that injunction was lifted.
Yeah, the lifting of that injunction has further intensified the fear amongst the attending physicians who have to manage these labor complications. What does that mean for me, and what is my confidence that I won't be Monday morning quarterbacked, second guessed by someone, with the consequence being I lose my license and I go to jail?
What do you say to somebody who says, this doesn't happen that often? A transport, not a big deal. I guess we just have to get used to that.
Well, what I'd say is back in 2022, when the law went into effect, I remember saying, we don't know their names yet, but one day we will know their names. And their names are starting to accumulate.
What do you mean?
I mean the patients' names, the patients harmed by this.
Harmed in what way?
First, by the shock and awe that on the worst day of their life, on a day when the overwhelming majority of these patients deeply want this child and this pregnancy to be carried out to completion, on the day that they learn that that's no longer possible, and you can't get treated here. So we're going to put you on a whirlybird. Or worse, I almost think this is worse. We're not sure what to do. The law prohibits us from acting at this moment, so we're going to watch you carefully and closely, and we're going to act just as soon as we can, just as soon as we feel confident that your life is in danger.
Dr. Souza said that risk to a woman's life is only amplified when they have to be airlifted to another state, when before they could just be rolled down the hall and into surgery if they need be. Something he said happened at least once a week last year in 2023 until that injunction was lifted. It's not as safe, it's costly, and it's taking away a resource from another patient who could also use it, this airlifting to other hospitals. Also, OBGYNs leaving Idaho isn't just affecting women of childbearing age either. It comes for everybody. Oral arguments at the Supreme Court begin at 8 a.m. Mountain Time tomorrow, but don't expect a decision likely until summer. We got two big election dates coming up on the calendar this year. In about a month, there's the May primary, which is these inter-party races to qualify for the other election, which is the November general election. All 105 seats in the legislature in Idaho are up for grabs this time around. And no matter who wins, you can always bet the talking points of 2020 will be likely brought up after the election. Questions about the results, the security, the integrity. So elections offices, well, they kind of anticipate this, so much so that they're taking, well, steps to install confidence or restore it, as it were. In Ada County, a first-of-its-kind system is set to launch, which will include transparency on every ballot cast. Here's Joe Barris.
In Ada County, Idaho, a team of election experts are hard at work to combat any doubts of election integrity. Like math teachers always say, you got to show your work.
This level of transparency and the access to this data is not happening anywhere else that I'm aware of.
Ada County Clerk Trent Triple and the county elections team is set to launch a first-of-its-kind election data and transparency site. The ballot verifier tool will host a record of every ballot, every box filled in, for every Ada County race moving forward. Easy-to-access data and scans of ballots for a legitimate, full record of election results.
It really is just for, obviously, transparency purposes. I mean, we want everyone to be able to trust in the election process, and this just provides some ultimate transparency into the ballots cast and how they were read.
Saul Seiler is the elections director for Ada County. He walked me through the new tool, which will launch this week with complete data going back to 2022.
About 18 months now to build this out behind the scenes. There was a lot of work that needed to be done just for us to really understand the capability of our voting tabulation system. And understanding how to extract all the images and CVRs in a way. And then obviously it took Adam and his team to develop the software on the back end to be able to create the upload capabilities, the searching capabilities, all that sort of stuff.
Saul just mentioned working with Adam and his team on this.
Ada County, Idaho is the first to launch the Savera's ballot verifier.
This is Adam Friedman, CEO of Savera, a company that looks to use technology to build a better democracy. Friedman remembers the struggles of trying to get election data in Massachusetts, which really led to this new tool. Ultimate transparency down to, legitimately, every pen mark on a ballot.
This ushers in a new era of American democracy, frankly, where the technology is there, the technology makes all of this possible. There's really no more excuse for jurisdictions around the country to provide that window into these live operations and into the deepest levels of our election process, so that everyone feels like together, we're all seeing the honest results.
A motivator for the creation, extreme reactions across the spectrum to the 2020 presidential election.
And the only way to cut through these kinds of extreme points of view is to just show people the goods, show them the facts, put that out there, and then we can all, come to our own conclusion. And also having this so open makes the whole process much more auditable, makes government more accountable.
People come to us all the time with questions about elections integrity. And they go, hey, we have heard or seen some things that are happening other places. And we go, well, you don't have to worry here. It's all there. Whether or not they go look at it, that's up to them. But the fact that we're putting it out there shows to the public that there's no reason to distrust what we're doing.
To be crystal clear, the use of the tool doesn't change the elections process or how the election works. Ada County is not moving towards digital elections.
No, the paper ballot is still the official record. These are just images of the paper ballot. These aren't even the official results. The official results come out on election night. Those systems only talk to each other after the fact, right? So this is just a window into what we're doing and all the data that we have.
So previously, to get all that type of information that this program will have, you had to do a complicated public records request, which took time to file, and in the clerk's office, they had to go through and they had to send it all back. This, by the way, will be very simple. You'll have images like ballot images or CVRs, which are cast vote records that you can, at home, compare to yourself. And the process before it took several days, lots of fees. This one will be free, and anyone with a computer can get onto this. And the results themselves will be uploaded a few weeks after the election. Brian, the cost of this is about $40,000, which is actually quite a deal. One thing, though, I wanted to mention, you can go through this. It's sortable. There's charts. There's data. It can generate all kinds of things. It's unbelievably interactive. I know the ballots themselves may not be interesting, but as this website rolls out, we'll play through it with our viewers to show them what it's capable of.
I can't imagine anything more transparent than that. Right?
Yeah, it's every ballot.
Thanks, Joe. All right, tomorrow morning, 5 a.m., tickets go on sale for the St. Jude Dream Home in Meridian. Mike wanted to know, are the ticket sales for this dream home only online? Well, Mike, there are two ways to buy the tickets for the St. Jude Dream Home giveaway. You can do it online at dreamhome.org, or you can call a 1-800 number, 1-800-537-8939. But of course, you do it online, it's obviously the easiest. Tickets, $100 a piece for the 2,100 square foot home. 3-bedroom, 2-bath, located in the Shelburne community in Meridian, valued at around $700,000. If you want a chance to win, all you gotta do is set your alarms early tomorrow, because we're only selling 30,777 tickets. And sometimes, in years past, every time, they sell out in hours. Money raised will benefit St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. The winner is gonna be announced on June 2nd, right here on KTVB. We know the name of the suspect who shot and killed an Ada County Sheriff's deputy over the weekend. Jude Binkley has that and more on today's 411.
The Ada County coroner released the name of the man who shot and killed Ada County Deputy Tobin Bolter on Saturday. The coroner's office says 65-year-old Dennis Mulquin died from a gunshot wound to the chest after he shot at Boise police officers who shot back and killed him. This happened after police say Ada County Deputy Bolter pulled over Mulquin near Overland Road and Raymond Street, then Mulquin shot Bolter and took off. Police later found Mulquin outside a nearby house where he was shot and killed. Deputy Bolter died the next morning. There's a temporary memorial for Deputy Tobin Bolter outside the Ada County Sheriff's Office. You can also go to a candlelight vigil tonight at 9 at Hunters Creek Sports Park and Star. Another candlelight vigil is this Friday at 9 p.m. at the Valley County Sheriff's Office in Cascade. You can find more ways to help on our website, ktvb.com. Multiple crimes related to the case were covered in Chad Daybell's trial today, from the attempted killing of Lori's niece's ex-husband in Arizona to the death of Tammy Daybell in Rexburg. Jurors saw pictures of Tammy lying on her bed dead. Chad is accused of conspiring to kill his first wife Tammy and two of Lori's kids, JJ and Tylee. Jurors heard the 911 call Chad and his son made after finding Tammy. While the call played in court, Chad appeared to be crying, shaking his head and wiping his eyes.
911, where's your emergency?
I'm Chad, the husband. She's clearly dead. We don't know.
Sorry. Okay.
A lot of this was the same evidence in Lori's trial last year. Court will resume tomorrow. And that's the 411 on the 208. I'm Jude Binkley.
We've gotten several questions that may have missed the detail in our Secretary of State story about the website and putting all the ballots online. Your name is nowhere near the ballot, nowhere on that ballot, so no, nobody will see your name on any ballot online. How about this question from Kevin in Boise? Raul Labrador, a few months back, was asked if the new abortion law would send OBGYN doctors out of state, and he said no. Tonight you said 60 have left the state? Yes, that's according to a survey by the Idaho Physician Wellbeing Action Collaborative. They did a survey from August of 2022 to November of 2023. You can almost bet that more have left since then. Idaho won't have to worry about bringing charges against physicians for illegally performing an abortion very much longer. There won't be any physicians left, says Jack in Boise. Doctors go to medical school to save lives, not to go to jail. Pro-life politicians should take the same oath to do no harm when they pass laws that benefit the people of Idaho, says Tony from Boise. Thank you, Dr. Souza, for the candor and honesty. It's reassuring to me that there are still people in crucial positions who are not afraid to speak the truth. So rare these days, says Julie. The laws won't change until one of our representatives or their spouse or child faces a medical emergency pregnancy. Then you will see action. That's a real shame, says Ken. Mike Tyson, favorite quote: everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. See you tomorrow.